Production class at Innisdale Secondary School would like to recognize the Indigenous communities across Turtle Island who lost their children to the residential school system. Every child matters. The Simcoe District School Board acknowledges we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people on this land, and we are committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect.
We have breaking news of yesterday's arrest at the Maple Crest Mall. 48-year-old Aaron James is in critical condition after use of excessive force by police constable John Williams for suspected theft. Bystanders claim that Williams put his hands on James before he was asked to empty his bags or his pockets. The suspected theft had been called in by a local game center employee, reporting James to have been acting suspicious. Bystanders report James was followed out of the mall by Constable Williams, who proceeded to grab James aggressively and lead him to his car. As James struggled, Williams became increasingly violent, forcing James onto the hood of his cruiser and completing the arrest.
I saw the whole thing. The police officers just followed him out of the mall, and they followed the whole family, and he didn't even read him his rights. He just started asking questions, and he just immediately got aggressive with them, and it was just so scary. His family was right there, and they had to see as their father was just being taken away, held against the car, and arrested. It was so horrible, and no one did anything about it.
The citizens of small Townsville. Ever so in the dark they are. Following this news, let's see how our cast of average students in an average school are getting along. Welcome to Rose Tinted Shades.
You're not listening.
I looked at him in the eyes when he said it. I looked at him in the eyes when he said it. I looked at him in the eyes when he said it.
I speak up, I'm shut down. I speak up, I'm shut down. I speak up, I'm shut down.
Oh boy, another black person on the news. Oh boy, another black person on the news.
I have
Oh
lost
boy,
a
another
sense
black
of
person on
myself.
the news.
I have lost a sense of myself. I have lost a sense of myself.
I'm so glad I answered. I've been wanting to tell you something that's been really bothering me. I've been playing this scene over and over again in my mind, just trying to make sense of it. I mean, I barely know the guy. Why would he say such a thing? Oh yeah, right. I'm sorry for rambling. I'll tell you what happened. So, last week Friday, I was at my church's youth group, and, well, you know the guy Pierce? Yeah, well, he kind of referred to me as a slave. Yeah, I'm sure of it. Once he realized that I've heard him, he gasped and looked directly at me. I don't know what to do. After that, he told me that I suck, even though I've never spoken to him before. He just makes me really uncomfortable whenever I go there. Should I tell an adult? Or maybe you can help me speak to him. Oh. It's not a big deal? You think I'm creating problems out of nothing? So when Stacy called you fake in front of all of her friends, that was nothing. No, yeah, I understand. I guess what I think, what I feel, doesn't matter, right? No, yeah, I totally get it. You're tired. I guess I'll go to someone else who cares. I'll see you at school.
back, my friend Keisha told me a story, and I didn't know how to help her. That reminded me of a time when I was younger. I would sit in my classroom, learning new things, reading lots of books, writing stories, repeat. I'd sit in my classroom with my peers, so we'd become friends and we'd have lots of fun until I would sit in my classroom with my peers who sometimes got treated differently than me. Noticing that you are being treated differently than your peers is a hard thing to come to terms with, yet I did it in just the 4th grade. I would sit in my classroom with my peers who got treated differently than me about something that they can't control. This is a sentence that I would repeat to myself every day, and I'd ask myself why. Why does Sally get treated better than Jimmy if they do the same thing? Why can't we all treat others the way we want to be treated? And then it clicked. I can't understand it because it's something that I never experienced. I'd sit in my classroom with my peers who get treated differently than me for something that they can't control, and what did I do about it? Nothing. I did absolutely nothing. I sat in my classroom with my peers who got treated differently than me for something that they can't control, and I did absolutely nothing. Why? Why didn't I do something about it? Why did I just stand by and watch? Doesn't that just make me as worse as everybody else? Yes, it absolutely does. It's because I was scared. I sat in my classroom with my peers who got treated differently than me for something that they can't control, and I did absolutely nothing about it because I was scared. And I hate myself for it.
Opposites? Or two sides of the same coin? Kaisha shocked into silence as the victim, and Daphne shocked into silence as the bystander. Are you confused? And why is that? What would you do if you could ask them anything about their actions? Let's see what Bailey does next.
I speak up, I'm shut down. If I'm quiet, I'm letting the problem stay. That poor man is being held down in the parking lot, and everyone's just watching and whispering and enjoying the fact that it's not them. One voice in the crowd is not loud enough to calm the storm, but allowing that storm to stay will never let it pass off from those who are in it. I scream and tell them to end their hate, but only in my mind those words will stay. Being only a teenage girl, how many will listen to what I have to say, or even take it seriously? You're too sensitive. These problems don't exist, is what I've been told. So maybe my thoughts should just stay shut, and my thoughts locked away. After all, adults know best, right? Or should I speak up? I risk getting singled out? Maybe I'm just a puddle. I'm just a splash of them by doing nothing. Or I could continue to be a soldier in this battle for equality.
Oh boy, another black person on the news. This ought to be good. What's their name? Oh, what does that matter? Either way, there'll be another new one tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. Just like the ones from yesterday, last week, last month, last year. How old were they? No, really, that young? Just kidding. That doesn't surprise me. Black kids all around get a crash course in how to live day by day as a criminal. The crime, possession of melanin. They tell you to keep your head down, your hands where they can see them. Don't run and don't talk. Keep a level head with a gun drawn to it, and maybe, just maybe, you'll make it out alive. But there's no cure for this sickness, this black death I've got. Fitting name for it, since that's all I seem to see. In the streets and in the news, their faces bleed together now, and the stories are all the same. He was on drugs, they protest. She had a knife, they cry out. All perfectly good reasons to be executed free of trial, but would only amount to the drivers to the courthouse. They hiss and they spit with their excuses, justifications, reasons why my right to live is a political thing, that our grief is theirs to debate over. Doesn't matter which side of the aisle they're on, I remain a talking point before I am a person. Where my rights to be free hangs in the balance of people who rarely even look like me. So what's there to do for kids like me, living in a world where from day one you're told in a million silent messages that you fundamentally don't matter? You could cry. That's the easiest answer, most tempting one, too. Lock yourself inside. Not that you're even safe in your own home, but it's safer than out there. They'll tell you to be strong and fight the good fight, but it gets harder and harder with each new tomb. My tried and true method, you ask? Well, I'm happy to share. I laugh. I laugh and I joke. I make fun of those who would look me in the eyes and call me some slur. I tell stories to my friends about some white woman saying with a straight face that immigrants don't belong in this country while dying of laughter. And sure, it's immature, insensitive to those we've lost, you could say. But I raise you this. What else is there to do anymore? We've been fighting since we got here, and it's gotten us far, but I really don't know how much longer I'll be expected to fight, to cry, to care. You grow numb to it, the black people in the news. And I've been told I have a great laugh after all. Maybe that's what they'll put in the story when it's my turn to make headlines.
And what an unfortunate headline it would be. Stand-up is no easy career, no joke if you will. Though some of our former characters varied in shade just like their experiences. What would friend groups of no color have to say about the politics of today and yesterday? Let's see what local gym boy Brent has to say about the subject.
I was at the mall with Emmett. Me and him were chilling at the food court, just hanging out, when all of a sudden we see a black guy getting taken out of the mall. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was too focused on the sub that I just got. After a while, me and Emmett decided to leave because we decided to go to the gym that day. When we left, we saw the same black guy getting put into a cop car. Pretty aggressively, actually. I didn't think anything of it. I was too focused on getting to the gym. Emmett kept looking, and I told him that we had to get going. As we're driving, Emmett kept trying to talk to me about racism and what we saw. I told him to shut up because I'm not trying to listen to all that right now, and I told him to focus on the gym. When we're at the gym, Emmett looked really sick. He was holding his stomach. He kept looking at his phone. He said he needed to go home, and I said, okay. I just kept working out. I didn't really think of it.
Dude, that's not cool.
What?
You seriously didn't care? Like, at all?
Is it such a crime to focus on myself?
When people's lives are at stake? Yeah, sort of.
It has nothing to do with me. Why should I care?
Because everything you just said is definitely messed up.
I've got my own things to worry about.
How are we supposed to make any progress when everybody that's affected by this stays out of it?
I don't know. They'll figure it out.
Brent?
Oh my god. It's not that big of a deal.
And Emmett was clearly uncomfortable as well. And you didn't care about that either?
Guys, it's fine.
No, it's not. You told him it wasn't right and he completely brushed it off. It's not okay.
Guys, geez, come on. This is really not that big of a deal. You guys are being ridiculous.
Brent, you're not listening. People are suffering and you can't stop thinking about yourself. This world, this system, it's because of us. And for far too long we've accepted it because it's convenient. I saw it this morning. I went to get coffee before school and I got served before the Johnsons did, and they were waiting for their drinks before I had even ordered. And getting my coffee is just the tip of the iceberg. That man arrested at the mall was Mr. James, our 8th grade teacher, the one who was so much fun and was so nice to everybody. But I vividly remember our parents telling us to be wary of him. And now he's being arrested and manhandled in front of his kids. You're telling me you could think about all of that and not care? It's not that you don't see color. You definitely do. You just love that yours makes life easy. Because you've never had to wait longer for your coffee, and you've certainly never been approached by security at the mall. Hell, Brent, I've seen you actually steal and get away with it. We've all heard the way you talk about this stuff. You've made every excuse in the books, but you can't keep ignoring what's right in front of you. We've had this conversation too many times, and if you want to keep me in your life, you're going to have to do better, because I'm tired of people being told their lives don't matter, while you're too busy needlessly reminding the world that yours does.
I think we all need a breather.
Hey, Emmett! Oh, what's going on?
You okay? You kind of got involuntarily thrown into that conversation.
Yeah, I'm fine. I don't love being spoken for.
Yeah, well, does anyone?
Yeah, that's fair. The day with Brent was weird, though.
Yeah, it seems like you saw things a little different than he did.
Yeah, I mean, I first saw it at the mall. I don't really go out that much. I'm not a huge fan of large groups of people, but Brent is. Brent wanted to go get lunch and then go work out. I normally work out at home, but I guess that day he was just more stubborn than normal. He can be like that. We were eating at the food court on the outer rim of the tables, ready to leave when we were finished. And we looked over. When we heard yelling and grunting, we saw a couple of cops wrestling a black man towards the exit. He didn't look like a threat. Hell, I even think I saw his kids over to the side looking scared. We were looking towards this, but Brent's attention immediately got sucked back into his sandwich. I couldn't look away. I wanted to get up, do something, maybe? I thought, they're cops. They know best, right? I decided it was best to just let them handle it. When we were leaving, me and Brent ran into the man and the cops again. And the man was pushed to the ground. He was on his knees. And I don't think I was close enough to really tell. I think he might have been crying. No matter what the cops thought, this was way too much brute force for one guy, who also might have been with his kids. I got a sickening feeling in my stomach. I mean, this is Barrie, right? It's a nice, peaceful city. I mean, I've never had a problem here. And the moment I thought that, I got even sicker. Right. I know why I've never had a problem here. Maybe I don't know my home as well as I thought I did. At this point, I want to step in and do something, but I'm still unsure. Plus, Brent, he saw this and just walked over to his car. I know he saw it, so he's just ignoring it. I asked him about it on the way to the gym, and every question, just like it, hit a wall. He dismissed every concern, didn't think about any question, and just became more exasperated and tired the more I talked. So eventually, I stopped. We were in the gym, but I couldn't bring myself to exercise. Brent just went on like it was another day, unfazed. I had to leave early. I obviously didn't know as much as I thought I did. My sister's pretty politically inclined, and I have some friends who are pretty invested in social change and social justice, so I thought I could get more information from them. Of course, I know racism exists, but, you know, this is Ontario, Canada. We're supposed to be accepting of all different types of people. And I learned very quickly that this isn't very true. I was given a place to start, and I went out from there. I read articles, I donated what I could to charity. It's not nearly enough of what I should be doing, what we should be doing. I learned there were protests for the man. I can't not attend them. I can get Brent to see it the same way.
Oh, damn. Yeah, I get what you mean, though. A lot of these racist topics we haven't been seeing before, they've been coming to light now recently, you know? It's hard to ignore.
It's coming to light only recently. It's hard to ignore. Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, you know, it's extra hard because Brent's my friend. I want to help him get there. I don't know. Alice has a point. I don't know if he's going to respond very well to that.
Yeah, I don't either. Brent's stupid and stubborn. He's always defensive, too. Him and Alice have been friends for years, and you just start losing your patience with them at some point, you know?
Yeah. And I know he has the capacity to care. He's just never been taught how dangerous his apathy can be.
Yeah, well, our family was not the most socially aware out there. Hell, I had to go out of my way to learn everything I know right now. And he won't listen to a single word I say, because I'm his big brother. But maybe you, Emmett, you can put Brent on the right track.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so.
I looked at him in the eyes when he said it. Please don't say it, Brent. Please, I know you see me looking at you. That's what I thought when we were sitting across from him. But he said it. I knew he would say it. He always says it. I hope and I pray that he'll stop, but he never does. How can he continuously turn his head to the completely unwarranted violence that people go through just because of the color of their skin? Does he not understand that I am one of those people? How can he say that it doesn't matter? He says he cares about me. He thinks we're friends. And then he goes on and talks like this? How can he do that? I don't get it. Brent is smart. He has to understand how his carelessness makes me feel. I mean, I know I've never asked him, but he should say something. He should just know. Maybe if he saw the way people talk to me, the way they shout from across the room, the way they stare, maybe then he would understand.
God, I hear you, Charlie. I hear you. I can't believe he said that today. I'm so sorry.
It's not the first time it's happened.
I know. He's been like this for as long as I've known him, and honestly, I'm at the end of my rope.
I'm just glad you finally told him how we've all been feeling.
Exactly. I mean, Brent has a lot of great qualities, but it doesn't justify the ignorance. And I don't know, I tried to look past it for so long, but I'm done.
You're right. I don't know why we let it go for so long.
Can you believe how everyone is acting right now?
I know. It's especially hard for others. Have you seen some of the headlines in the news just today?
It's horrible. Aggressive black male arrested for theft at Maple Crest Mall. Why do they need to mention the color of his skin?
Exactly. This wouldn't have been spread around as much if it was a white guy.
That's what I'm saying.
How is any of this supposed to change when the media broadcasts situations like this where they're made to look criminal?
Yeah, we were both there and he wasn't even acting aggressive.
That's what I'm worried about.
They say things that aren't even true to make it seem like what the police and the government is doing is totally okay.
I completely agree, but what can we do as allies to help fix this?
Hey, I know, you heard? I had a similar experience to that. You want me to tell you about it? Okay. Stuck out of the van in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The first thing I noticed was the scorching heat from the sun burning the back of my neck. There was a slight breeze in the air, but it was not strong enough to cool me off in even the slightest way. The worst part was, it wasn't even 11 o'clock yet. My family and I had stopped here because it was just off of the highway. And it was on the way to Miami. This ground was a pale pink stone instead of asphalt, and the sound of cars traveling at high speeds filled my ears. Big box looked the same as any other, green with a yellow sign depicting its name. The only difference that I could see was that we were the only white faces. I didn't really think much about this until we got to the doors, and a man came up to us and said in a deep, raspy voice, "You sure you want to go into this big box? There's another one just up the street." My dad replied that we were fine going to this one because we didn't need a lot and it wouldn't be worth our time to go to a different one just a few minutes up the road. We proceeded into the store, and I realized that it was so much different from the other stores I'd been in. There was glass in front of everything. Yeah, everything, including the cereal. Was this big box's attempt at preventing stealing just because this is a black community? Or is it to protect items from being stolen, as it has happened before? Either one is unacceptable. Fort Lauderdale is such a wealthy community, so how can this area be so poor that people need to steal to survive? Also, is Big Box stereotyping this community just because it is a prominently black community by putting up the glass barricades? After I was done observing this, I looked around and noticed that there were significantly less employees than the other stores I'd been in. The atmosphere felt like sadness and hardship undermasked with dirtiness. It appears that Big Box had not staffed enough custodians with enough cleaning supplies to properly clean everything down. The looks and stares made me feel out of place as we walked through the store, but my parents kept smiling and nodding at other customers, showing them that we were harmless. I smiled at a few other kids who looked to be about the same age as me, and to my surprise, they smiled back. I saw some parents smile when they saw this, as if they were happy to see that people from different ethnicities were getting along. When we went to an employee for help, he gave us a find it yourself look, but reluctantly helped us. I felt that this was because of our skin color, not simply because he didn't want to help us. Once we were finally finished, we proceeded to check out. The lady at checkout seemed startled that white people were shopping here. She asked us what we were doing at this big box when we could have gone to a nicer one just a few minutes up the road. My mom replied that we were fine to be in this one, even though it didn't have people that looked like us. It was just off of the highway, and we didn't need a lot. She chuckled and smiled and said, "Well, I'm glad you came. We don't normally see this kind of equality being shown. Have a nice day." We picked up our bags and proceeded to our van. As we left the store, I couldn't stop thinking about how uncomfortable I felt to be in there, with no one of the same skin color as me. It was eye-opening to see that inequality still exists, and it is sad to watch, especially in a community with such wealth and prosperity. We loaded up our van with the snacks and wireless headphones from my grandpa and drove off. On our ride to Miami, I could not stop thinking about what I just experienced must be how a black person feels in a predominantly white community such as small Townsville. It was heartbreaking and made me want to try and make everyone feel included. I now knew what it was like to be the only one to look different and could not imagine experiencing that every day of my life. Well, would you look at the time? I have to go. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Wow, I can't believe this is still happening.
Did I hear that right? Did those words actually come from his mouth? I must have misheard him. Why isn't anybody saying anything? I can't believe you found to me as a sign. The songs is all I hear, it's all I make. Why aren't I saying anything? Well, what can I say that'll make him take me seriously? I saw ladies telling that this won't happen to me. And I tried to find places, but I opened my mouth to speak. I guess I'll never read that. What if I stutter? What if I fumble with my words and I come on out a mess? I can't risk looking like an idiot, so I'm not looking weak. Only to run on like a long-cost commotion. Oh, if I really did you wrong, it really isn't show for nothing. But then again, why would he look at me like that? Why did he give me such big mouth in his face that I've heard him? The next time he says like that, I want to say at least something. I don't want my empty glass of water running place. I don't want to look weak or back till my first reason to use it. Won't let me let go. This for mine. I've been Not a stutter, not a mess, not pathetic, not weak. Just a voice that's being heard.
No, show is not over. It's not over. I still have my bit to do. Come on, lights up. I have lost a sense of myself, one that I've never gotten a chance to know. I always had these fears integrated into my consciousness as water to skin, but they were there, buried underneath my performance, but there. I had once believed that the hate I experienced was a matter of the people I came across in life. Just coincidence, consistent yet cruel coincidence. And I had once believed that their constant reminders, the daily reminders of how I was different, was just childlike curiosity, with those little pale hands gripped and pulling at my hair, extended and pointing at not just my nose and my lips, but my skin. And once I had believed that to everyone, I was my character. I knew who I was and who I was meant to be, and so did everyone else. I was wrong. I was quickly taught that I am not my character. But perhaps an empty vessel molded of clay by those same pale white hands to hold their bloodied white tears. Every day, I grieve for who I could have been, who I would have played, and who I would have been had it not been for what? Had it not been for what? Was it the isolation? Was it the pressure to rid myself of my features and conform? Is that what it was? Or maybe it was when the looks of confusion turned into hatred. Or was it when I was out with my parents and my father was off to the side confronting the man who called me up under his breath? I wonder what he could have said. Or maybe it was when I was told that I didn't belong here. And when I was told by those same people to go back to Africa when I had never been. Though I'm not angry, I'm not upset. I was just being assigned my role. Any anger I felt was not palatable to the viewers anyways. I'm sure it was just a character choice. And I always had this big character, but I had to make it small. I understand that it was inconvenient for the directors, but that's enough about me. Let's talk about last summer. Another award-winning performance, that of which the inspiration was beyond devastating. Then, more than ever, they wanted to hear more of me. More of my expression, my grief, my anger, my loudness. But their own silence was more excruciating than our screams as they listened to the live feed of our corpses hitting the pavement. When we watched that, it was no longer detachable. When we were watching it, we saw ourselves. I think that's what it was. Through that morning, we had to do the fighting. We had to do the educating. We had to make the change because everyone else wanted a performance. And the performance we gave them, a performer I was. I was no longer given a chance to pick who I could have been, who I wanted to play. I was assigned a role. I cried, I kicked, I mourned, I screamed, I educated, I protested, and I witnessed while we were gutted and made into an empty vessel, molded of clay by those same white hands to carry their own bloody tears. Everywhere I turned, the constant ringing voices of tell us what we can do. What can I do to help? Tell me about your fears. Let me listen to you cry. And I did. I did. I am not my character. I was thrown onto the stage, expected to do everything I could and do a little dance while I was at it. For what? I wanted to do everything I could. I did everything I could. I couldn't stop doing everything I could. But why did it have to be me? Why did it have to be me on that stage? Instead of taking it down because you built it. I have lost a sense of myself, one that I've never gotten a chance to know, because I was turned into an empty vessel for the sake of them. The sake of a performance. And what a lovely one it had been, am I right? Come on, guys, method acting. But here I stand before you today, in which I tell you this is my final performance, a scene coming to a close. I'm passing on the torch, for I am a puppet, a vessel no longer. 18 years an actor. It is time for me to remain loud and proud, but pass on a torch. And learn once again what it's like to play me. That's the scene. I'm done. Thank you. Lights down.
All these voices in my head getting louder, hanging on by a thread, where's my power? I feel helpless, you just bring me down. All the sirens going by, getting faster. There's no right path, I can choose, what's the answer? No one's helping me cause they're all blind. Another story, another heart broken, and no one's helping, but they're still fighting. What can I do? What can I say? I can't make change today. What should I do? What should I say? I can't make change today. What should I do? What should I say?
Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for watching.
This has been a collaboration between the ISS production team and Making Change.
We really hope you enjoyed the show.
And tonight, we're very welcome and happy to welcome Michelle and Amber from Making Change tonight.
Michelle Newton is one of the co-founders and acting chair of Making Change. Her work in Simcoe County with Our Mosaic Lives, as well as Making Change, has allowed for a critical conversation within our community regarding Black history and the realities of anti-Black racism. We were so grateful to participate in the Artist Mentor Program, which focused and supported this very production.
And Amber Beckett is an educator and presenter with Making Change. She is the lead instructor at the Hello Code debate adjudicator and former area dictator for Toastmasters. She's focused on giving others the confidence to take initiative in interactions, make deeper connections, and create a friendlier world. We were so grateful to participate in the Artist Mentor Program, which focused and supported this very production. But how do you both feel about being in such an important role for this production?
Well, I just think our role is diminished by your role. What an excellent series of monologues. I was about to break down at the end because you really got me with that whole buildup. So it's really been an honor to have these conversations with you. I wasn't there at the beginning though, and I want to throw to Amber to share her thoughts on her role in taking you at the beginning of this journey.
Yeah, I would just like to say from the start, it's been such a wonderful discussion that you all contributed to, and to see what you've done since then and where you've gone from there has been really incredible. And it's just been so full of emotion and a lot of really important messages and like quotable quotes in there. I think you folks did a fantastic job, and I'm happy to be associated with it.
Well, thank you both for everything you've done. And those are some very kind words. We really do appreciate your guys' role in this. We wouldn't have been able to do this without you. So thank you. So to get into some of the questions now, to begin, what inspired all of us to go with this theme? Is there anyone in the class who feels they can speak to that?
I definitely could. I feel like the biggest thing that inspired us to use this theme was definitely things that have happened in the past, and the most recent thing definitely was summer of 2020, and everything before that and that came after it. A lot of that was devastating, and so I feel like that's kind of the main reason we did this show, to start that conversation on that topic, because it's a conversation that needs to be had, and it's a conversation that had needed to be had for years and years and years. So yeah.
Exactly. And now we're starting that conversation and hoping that it's going to open up spaces for everybody at different schools. The next question is, can you recall a time where you could have been a better ally? If anyone in the class would like to answer.
I know that personally, I have been in situations where people around me have made jokes that definitely were not appropriate. And at the time, I was too afraid to speak up. And that's kind of something we see in this show that I'm sure we'll touch on a bit more later. But yeah, I've definitely learned a lot since then and grown a lot. And I know that I would behave differently now. But in hindsight, there were absolutely times where people in my life made jokes that were not funny. And so, yeah, I definitely could have been better about speaking up and shutting things down then.
Yeah, same. There have been instances where I definitely should have been like, hey, that's not cool. But also, even like recently, there have been times where I've like shut down when someone was speaking about it, and I've just like, I like mentally just shut everything down. When I could have sat there and listened and actually like paid attention. And I feel like that's definitely something that I've learned a lot better to not do. I'm still working on it, obviously, but yeah, there have been times where I've definitely could have been a better ally and actually heard the voices of the people speaking. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. If there's no one else that wants to share for this one, we'll move on. But if there is anyone else that wants to say anything, speak up. We don't want to rush you guys.
I would like to just add that I think it takes a lot of courage to speak up or to stand up and be somebody who breaks that silence. And that you're recognizing that in yourselves, I think, is something to be proud of. And remembering that when the situation is safe is the right time for you to do it. And you can always circle back with somebody after, when it's not a group confrontation, and say, when you said this the other day, this was what you were really saying, and I'd like you to examine that. So I just applaud you in taking those steps and realizing that we're always going to be on this journey. There's no end per se. It just keeps on going.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. Cool. Well, then we can move on to the next question. Did any of you encounter any difficulties or problems while filming or writing or creating this production?
I mean, I know we definitely did with trying to get everyone's schedules to work so we can meet up. I know there were a few audio problems that you had in your scene, I believe, like during recording. I know that was a problem. We had to re-record a few scenes as well, take multiple takes. But I mean, the multiple takes part is understandable. You can't get around the first try. But there were scenes that just we couldn't use, so we had to redo them. Sometimes there was too much noise. Sometimes we thought something didn't look right. It was just a lot of trial and error, kind of just trying to make sure everything worked.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to speak to the script writing process. I think me, Sarah, and Soleil, everyone really, but me, Sarah, and Soleil wrote most of the dialogue for that one scene that we were both in. And I think we struggled to make sure that there was equal amounts of diversity in points of view. because we do live in a predominantly white area, and it's hard to avoid this show being predominantly from the white view. I think we did a good job of balancing it, but it was definitely tricky.
I know that when recording James's scene, we had some issues with the green screen that we used. We couldn't get it straight. We had people like holding it up like up top, and we had a lot of issues with bugs flying everywhere because we had to record it all inside, right? We had a lot of issues with bugs. And it was really hot the day we recorded, and some of us were wearing pants, so we were sweating and dying, and it was one big mess. Though Miss Mar did come to the rescue with water and snacks, like the absolute mom she is. So yeah, that was definitely something that was an issue when recording.
Yeah, summertime in Ontario is definitely it's hotter than people think it is. Canada has its moments. Yeah.
It's one or the other with weather. It's the worst. But that brings us into the next question. Why choose this topic to talk about?
We kind of touched on it a bit earlier, but I think to specify, like, the presentation that we had with Amber very early on in this course, I think really signified to everyone that this was what we had to do. That was definitely educational for me, 100%. And I think it really spoke to a lot of us and kind of definitely had a massive influence in what we decided to go with for this show. So like August has said earlier about, you know, recent and long time events, that presentation, I think really was our final push to like knowing that this was where we wanted to go. So our next question is from Banting. How long did it take to make this production? How much was filmed beforehand, and how much was actually live today?
So this part, the Q&A part, is completely live. And then the whole video that you watched before this was completely filmed, and we filmed it a couple weeks back. We filmed it in maybe a week and a half. And that's including re-records and taking time to re-record things and make sure things were perfect. Or as perfect as they could be. And yeah, no, it took a little while to record this, and then we'd been planning it and making it since the beginning of the quadmester, basically. So yeah.
Alrighty, yeah, no, it's 100% true. But our next question is from Miss Elliott. What were the paper masks, the ones that were shown at the start and with the people in the background? I think it was, is Anna here? No?
Yeah, she did not make it.
Alrighty.
Oh, does M can do it? M, you want to do it?
Yeah, sure. So, with our whole selection on the title Rose Tinted Shades, there is a saying where by wearing a rose colored tint, it basically makes any red flags that you can see in any situation. It's just kind of said that red flags just become flags. So, by wearing rose tinted shades, you're basically ignoring anything that is going on and that anything wrong is happening. So it's kind of like I don't know the word exactly. By calling it rose tinted shades, it's bringing to attention the fact that a lot of people just kind of overlook what's going on, and with the and sorry with the topic that we portrayed and that we are trying to begin a discussion with, not only in schools, but as a community entirely. We're just trying to go against the whole rose-colored glasses, kind of.
Yeah. Thank you so much for providing some insight into our title. I think it's good that we explain that one a bit, because I think at first glance it might not necessarily have the most meaning to the audience, but definitely like there's thought behind it. Does anyone want to go in a little bit to the significance of the masks in the show? I feel like when we were discussing it, it kind of represented how it's the anonymity, I believe was a word somebody had mentioned earlier, and kind of how, this isn't, we have a set of characters, but they're not really characters and they're not really archetypes. They're reality, and they're everywhere, and there are too many people that share some pretty backwards views, and it kind of blends everyone together and showed how, these are, it's everyone, and anyone can be behind that mask. Yeah, I feel like is there anyone who wants to tag on to that?
Yeah, definitely. As you were saying, Sarah, it is definitely a form of anonymity where you can't tell who believes what and who is who and all that stuff. That's definitely a big part of it. The masks were also a way to like cover the people themselves. It was a way to be like, oh, who is this person, right? It's just like a random person in the background, like whatever. But like they played like the masks played a significant role. It's like putting on like a happy face when you're feeling sad. You put on a mask to make people believe you think one thing, or when you could definitely think another. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering too if Kyra had mentioned something earlier in one of her reflections about us focusing on learning about different styles of theater, and we made some connections to sort of the history of mask in theater. Did anyone want to touch on that as like a theatrical element?
I wouldn't mind doing that because it ties in with another question. The question of why the narrator had a slightly different mask, but in different forms of theater, different masks were worn to portray different characters and different stereotypes of characters, not just their hidden motivations and creating a shape that gives you an idea into what kind of person they are. With the narrator specifically, it ties in with the story I was trying to portray, in which I had been performing this role most of my life. I had been put there, and I never really got a chance to just kind of live as myself and do what I wanted to do, because I was always seen as that martyr for change by other people, whether I wanted to be or not. So I wanted that to be in place beforehand, so at the end I could get a chance to take it off. Symbolism.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you for that insight. Our next question is, how did you feel about finally seeing the completed project? Anyone can speak to this, really. How did everyone feel once we finally got to watch it all be put together?
Oh, and a couple people use like the raising hand option before they spoke, which makes so much more sense. So if you want to talk, go ahead.
So that there isn't like dead silence. I know I've been speaking a lot, but gotta feel the silence. I felt a sense of relief knowing that there is no more stress to go on around trying to make the show perfect. or as perfect as it could be. I know that some people in the class who aren't here, I know that the one person who did most of the editing and putting it all together, I know that he felt cathartic and like relief. And as someone who's in the marketing team, I felt like this sense of I can relax now. And then seeing it put together was just it was very nice to see everyone's hard work and everything that they've been doing. It was just nice seeing it all together.
I have a different point of view on that because I've done other like plays and musicals before. And so usually before opening night, it's like really nerve-wracking and like just hard to wrap your brain around the fact that it's opening night. And then you have this big show and then it's over. That felt very much different because it wasn't like it was nervous. Like I'd seen everything already. I knew exactly what it was going to look like. There was no chance of messing up or having something go wrong unless there was like a tech issue, which we had been pretty good at working out. So while I was relieved that we were done filming, I don't want to say it felt empty because it wasn't a negative feeling. It just felt very much lackluster from the experience of performing live.
Yeah, interesting. That's entirely fair. Amber, is your hand up to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it was really great seeing how everything came together, and all of the different scenes I think were really impactful on their own, but the fact that they all tied together into the same narrative just made it that much more powerful because you had the contrast of all the different emotions, right? Like the fear and the anger and the confusion and the frustration and the feeling of, playing it small. And then all of the different topics as well, I think really showcase just how broad this issue is. I mean, you touched on like media bias and holding your friends accountable and modern day segregation and gaslighting and wealth inequality and so many different things. I think just really was more impactful because of all of the pieces coming together. The sum of the whole was greater than the sum of its parts. So that's all I have to say. But I thought it was really, really well done and a really cohesive project that I was happy to be a part of in my small way and to see what magic you all been able to create.
Thank you for that. None of us could have done it without you guys and your support. And I think I definitely speak for everyone when seeing this come together. It mind-blowing, really, because God, it was stressful. The next question is, what did the character who was talking to Brent do when they got their coffee first and saw Brent steal?
So I can take that one as I played Alice in the show. So when I was doing the planning for this character, there definitely was like a thought process behind the way she reacted to the coffee situation and the stealing situation. With the coffee, in this universe, she did say something and she did offer the family her coffee, but I didn't put it in the monologue because it didn't feel like it was meant to be the focus, because she wasn't saying what she was saying to be like, look at how I'm so much better at being an ally than you are. She was saying it to be like, we all need to do better and you haven't been trying and I don't know how to get you to see. It wasn't, she really didn't want it to be about her. It was really trying to get through to Brent. So it didn't really feel necessary to say that she had done what she did. So I left that part out, but there definitely was a thought process behind that. However, the situation with seeing Brent steal, that had happened earlier on in their friendship, and she still had a lot more to learn. And it's harder to stick up to your friends than it is to stick up to strangers. And so she did not say anything in that situation. But by the time that it had come, because this coffee situation was the same day as this scene. And so clearly Alice has had a lot of growth and a lot of time to build some more confidence and maturity. And at that point, she was able to say something and do something. So yeah, those were the ways that she reacted in both of those situations. So for the next question, What was your most defining moment throughout the performance? This is another one that can go to anybody. Anything that stood out, your most defining moment. Ariana.
Oh, sorry.
Something that was a really defining moment for me was kind of during the process when we were writing the script. One of the days we were trying to put all the scenes in order, and we were just trying to talk about how things would work together and how we could adjust things so it all worked together. And that's when I kind of saw and I was like, yeah, this is a real show. This is going to be really good. And I feel like that was like the most memorable part for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that.
What are words? Sorry, I just had a. Anyways, my most like defining moment was getting. I wasn't a big actor in the show. You saw me maybe once, in one scene. So, I think my defining moment behind the scenes, was definitely getting like getting things done and seeing everything come together from the background. um A lot of people think that the background people, like the marketing team and the tech, they think that they don't do a lot. Like, a lot of people think marketing is just, oh, post on social media every once in a while. It's a lot more than that. Especially tech. I've now been on both marketing and tech. And it's during quarantine and COVID and all that, especially since we haven't been in class this entire quadmester, like not once. So my most defining moment was definitely sitting there, like at the end of the show when we first watched it as a class. I sat there and I was like, we did this. Like, we did this. Like, this is something that we did, like, just all the students. And I sat there and it took me back a minute, and I sat there and I was like, this is something that students 18 and under did. Like, we are at like totally different age ranges, and we did this. And I'm just so happy to know that, like, there are people who don't to know that there are people who are like there and to do it, you know?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Xander, you have your hand up.
I think my defining moment was kind of like with August. It was when we were watching the first draft of the performance, and like it just like it didn't really hit me that we were making this actual production until I watched it, and then like my brain kind of just registered the fact that we did this and that like we're proud of this moment and how much we've come through to get to this point.
Yeah, thank you. Amazing.
Anyone else who wants to cover it, but otherwise the next question is from Amber. Actually, how has being part of this production sparked any interesting conversations with your friends? So August, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah. I have most of my friends are like, most of my friends are like predominantly white. So there have been some interesting conversations with them. Especially especially with my one friend whose dad is a cop. I've had some very, very interesting conversations with him, and looking at his ideals, I sit there and I go, that's not the greatest way to think about things, but we can work on it. So it definitely has sparked a lot of conversation between me and that one specific friend. And there was an instance where another friend of mine sent me a video of a teacher from another school being racist, and she's like, I don't understand how he's being racist. And I sat there and I was like, girl, he said all lives matter while talking about Black Lives Matter. Hold up. So we definitely have had some interesting conversations there too. I've definitely been teaching my friends all that I know, because a lot of them don't know where to start, so they don't have the resources, and they don't have the materials to start researching. So I've just kind of been like, here, read these articles, here, look at these, look at the facts, because a lot of my friends are fact driven. So I'm like, here, look at the facts, this is what's happening, you can't deny it. So yeah, definitely some interesting and very informative conversations with friends.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Xander, your hand is up again.
It has sparked a lot of conversation with my friends, this production. I have two really good friends, and both are white, and they're all on the Black Lives Matter movement. So they were agreeing with a lot of the things that we were covering, and it helped them understand that other people feel the same way, and feel like things are there's a lot of injustice.
Awesome. Thank you. Morgan.
Yeah, this performance has really I've talked about it with my family and my friends and all that, and I mean it brought up conversation about it, and it's just been really eye-opening to see everybody's different opinions on it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Cool. So if no one else has anything they'd like to add, we can move on to the next question. I believe we covered this one earlier. Why are they wearing paper masks in some parts of the performance? What is the significance behind them? Yeah, I think we did cover that one earlier. If anyone else has anything they'd like to add, you're welcome to. If not, we can move on to the next one.
Which happens to be, what was the meaning behind the story? So if you all have your different interpretations, feel free to share them. Kyra.
Well, I think everyone's different parts had different meanings. Because when we started working in this class, Miss Morgan told us to go, after we learned about all this different information, they told us to go write a monologue based around this sort of theme about something that we had experienced or our personal feelings. And then, so I think all of us kind of just took those monologues and adapted them into the script. I know that my monologue was based off a real life event, but I just took those feelings and emotion and twisted them around the event with Brent. So I don't know if I'm answering that question properly, but I think that a lot of the story was based off real life events and emotions and just placed in the roles and minds of these characters. Touching on that, the name, the small Townsville, I think that played a part in it because we didn't want to, even though there were personal incidents that we were basing it on, we didn't want to put a negative association on any specific place. We started out with just calling it Barry. And then I think in Xander's monologue, he talks about it being called Smalls Townville because we wanted it to come across as this could be any place in the world, and these characters and these feelings and events and emotions happen all over the world. And that it's not just in this one place, and that Barry is not this big bad place where it's all racism, but there is racism that exists here, but it's also all over. So
Yeah. August, did you want to add something?
Yeah, definitely a lot of what Kyra said. It definitely is what the teachers had asked us. We all wrote monologues. Not all of them got put into the script. I know that I personally didn't put mine in because it didn't feel like it fit. But yeah, no, a lot of sorry, hold on. A lot of like the meaning behind the story definitely was it was definitely an anti-racist, especially anti-black racist message. Or I think I said that right. Anyways, but yeah, no. We definitely were we were definitely trying to give off the message of it's not enough to not be racist anymore. You have to be anti-racist at this point. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely covers a lot of it. I would also say that I feel like it certainly represents the way these conversations are presenting themselves amongst youth. I think the way that this stuff is coming up in our age group is kind of unlike any time before. I certainly know that these conversations are growing and becoming so much more present. And all of this is taking place amongst teenagers, and it all felt realistic. Teenagers are talking about this stuff more than ever before, and I think that's because they're realizing the impact that they can have, the impact that we can have. Teenagers are changing the world, and youth are showing up to protests in droves, unlike ever before. So I think our show definitely speaks to that, and shows, the ways that young people are beginning to become a part of this movement. Kyra, you have your hand up again.
You just brought up something. So the big scene with around Brent was Sarah's original idea. And I remember us having conversations about how she wanted that to focus on kind of a political progressive spectrum. So like each character was meant to be a different level of anti-Black racism on the political progressiveness spectrum. So we had Brent for that group at the very bottom, and Charlie, we decided kind of wasn't on the spectrum because it's hard to be progressively anti-racist when you have to face it every single day. I think you just are anti-racist if it's affecting you. You may not combat it because it may be overwhelming, but I don't think you most often agree with any of the racist ideals or beliefs, and I think it's just a given. And then, so aside from Charlie, Alice was supposed to be the most politically progressive friend. So I think that adds to that scene at least.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to see like the Arise model. And yeah, everyone is kind of at a different step in their journey towards becoming anti-racist. And so, yeah, we really wanted to show that in the scene. And yeah, we have Brent, and then everyone is kind of like Rachel and Finley speak up. And Ashton's character, Brad, nope, chat. Can someone remind me of Ashton's character's name? We're going to call him Chad for now. We see him talk about how his family is not the most socially aware, and he's Brent's brother. And so he's kind of on his own journey, and Emmett trying to, he knows what's going on is wrong, and he wants to do something about it, and he's learning, and he's talking to his friends and family. So yeah, we really wanted to show that in this show as well. And I hope that came across to the audience. Yeah, Ms. Mar.
Yeah, I think too, also to highlight in that scene, the importance of the narrator on the fence, right? Because despite the best efforts and, trying to be part of that Rise model, it's still problematic, and it was still okay for the narrator to call that out. It was necessary to call out that problematic piece, that it was becoming very centered on the perspectives of people who are just starting to rise, right? So, and it showed sort of the perfect imperfectness of all of this. So that moment for me was just one of the best parts of the show, because it just smacked you in the face with like, we're not there yet.
Yeah. So if there's no one else who wants to touch on the show and like the ideas behind the show, then we can move on to the next one, which is, why did we choose to deliver it in this way?
The term "this way" is super broad, but yeah.
You can go. Do you want to touch on it? Because I can touch on it if you don't want to.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna start with what Soleil is saying is this way's broad. But if we're talking like filming and like not live and that kind of aspect, I think because of the situation we're in due to COVID, that it was really kind of necessary to deliver it this way, because there's so many more tech issues that you can run into having a fully live show, and timing issues and cut issues. And we all filmed like halfway across the city, like way far away from each other. And I don't think it would have worked any other way. So if that was the basis behind the question, then I think that answers it, but.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I'm only assuming that's what they meant when they asked. But otherwise, we can follow through with the next, which is why I choose the name Rose Tinted Shades. I believe we covered this earlier. Yeah?
Yeah.
As well as the next question for why we chose the name for the city.
Yep, we did also cover that.
Oh my goodness.
We
We're
also
going through
covered
these
that
so
one.
quickly. Oh my gosh.
And that one. I think we have doubles.
Great. Perfect.
I don't think we touched on why the narrator was important. Like,
oh, great. I can answer this.
Yeah, you can answer that
one. Really? Okay. Initially, when I had written my monologue, it was from a perspective of, I hate the fact that people look at me and they assume you have to tell me what I have to do to change. Tell me how to be better, because it's your responsibility to tell me how to stop being racist. I don't like that. It makes me uncomfy. But over lots and lots of development, it eventually made me realize that I wanted the narrator to bring up feelings of grief and really push the fact that so many of us, myself included, has lost a massive portion of our childhoods and certain things that we see other people getting to have. And that's incredibly upsetting. If you know what I mean, there's so many layers as to why something that has been recently brought to my attention is, even in therapy, which I've been looking at, there were certain kinds that just weren't made with Black people in mind. Like, it's integrated everywhere. And that's a whole nother kind of grief that you have to take a moment to really realize and understand, that some people just aren't going to get the chance to learn that. As well as in the show, why I was commenting on what these characters had said, as commented on before, to really point out the imperfections of the show, because nothing's going to be perfect the first time around. Nothing's, from a majority white perspective, is going to be amazing and top tier in terms of giving us the representation that we need and bringing attention to the things that we need to bring attention to. So really seeing that imperfection and seeing the progress within imperfection, I feel is something necessary, something that was necessary for even myself, because I hold everything to far too high of a standard immediately, and it brings me much, much stress. But a whole list of different reasons that apply to different scenes, really.
Yeah, I think the narrator was an entirely necessary role, and you did a fantastic job of, adding it to the show. So thank you for your role in that.
Thanks, man.
Of course. One of our last questions, we have, what did you learn from your scene? I think that's a really interesting one. Did anyone feel like they grew from playing their character? Or anything from their scene, even if it's not your own character? I kind of did. I felt like the way my monologue moved throughout the show, pretty different perspective from the way it was originally written to what it became. And I definitely felt like, looking at the way Alice was speaking in that group, did to me have a bit of a white savior vibe. And I can recognize that. And I know that something I've learned a lot over the last year is one of the best things I can do is listen and learn. And I felt like Alice might have been speaking a little bit too much. And it almost felt like it was on behalf of Charlie. And that was just something that I had noticed and felt a little off about. But I know it's a character, and that role is also a necessary one to look at, to know that, like, Alice is not perfect either. And Alice needs to maybe take a step back and realize that, she doesn't need to do all of the talking and all of the, like, pushing. Brent needs to kind of see some things on his own, and it is not Alice's place to speak on behalf of Charlie or anyone that Brent may have been affecting. So that was something that I definitely saw in my character, and made me more aware of in myself. So, yeah. Kyra, did you want to speak?
Can you say the question again? You just told me and
what did you learn from, or did you learn anything from your scene?
Okay. I don't know if I learned something from my scene alone, but I think if you take my monologue and Soleil's monologue and compare them, I'm very much like the timid, this is too much to deal with. I feel like my monologue reflects Soleil before Soleil did their monologue. I feel like it's a very good representation of Soleil playing their character and just not saying anything and just being quiet so that you don't provoke anyone. And then Soleil, although they're very different characters, I think shows a good progression of what I hope Charlie would become, especially because of this extremely triggering event for Charlie. Because I feel like Charlie's character usually wouldn't vent to Alice. Like Sarah said, I think Alice usually did all the talking for Charlie, which can be harmful. So I think it's neat to look at those two things. And like I said, it's based on real life events. So in real life, I really didn't say anything, and I probably should have. And I think it's just nice to see those two comparisons of, like, I feel like if you put those two characters as one, you can really see growth as a character. And I like how that was shown throughout the show. And I think other people as well as me could take a lot away from that.
I totally get it. And I love that comparison. I didn't even realize that until you brought it up. But no, I see it. If anything, playing that character has taught me the necessity in being able to step back when you are part of that marginalized group and let other people actually try to educate themselves for a moment, because it takes a toll on yourself and you still have yet to heal that trauma from all those years of growing up. So maybe handle a little bit of that first before taking on the teacher role. Then if no one else has anything to comment on about how their characters change them or the play has changed them.
I was just going to say, I think an ideal person of color or biracial person, I think an ideal place to sit is in between Soleil and Charlie, where you're not outraged and you're not making a bigger scene, although that's not always wrong. But you're not sitting there in silence being little and small and timid, where you're still standing up for yourself, but you're not putting yourself in harm's way.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to find. But then I think if we can follow through with Kendra.
I was just going to say, I feel like that same growth is demonstrated in Soraya's monologues as well. I don't know, Soraya, if you want to speak to that process, but then also talk about the music and the production, because you were really involved in that, and obviously you were singing in it. Did you want to talk about the difference between the two monologues and then lead into the music? Because I feel like Kyra, what you were saying is suiting to what happened with Soraya's character storyline too.
Sure, I could talk to that. So in my first monologue, my character Keisha, she's kind of shy. She wants to open up to her friend about something that happened to her, but she's very like shy about it. And when she tells her about it, she's like pushed down. And then in her next monologue, this is more of her internal thoughts of what she wants to do. Like if this situation ever happened to her, she wants to like face it head on and not stay quiet. She wants to say like something about it. Yeah. And for the music team, we all like worked on our individual pieces like on our own. And for some parts, some students collab with each other. Like remember for the humming scene, the humming audio, I collabed with Alyssa. But yeah, most of the music piece elements were individual, and it's all original music.
Awesome. Well, oh, Michelle.
Well, I've just put my hand up because I think we're getting to the end of Amber and my stay with you, but please don't let that make you stop this great conversation. I certainly know, we're a small not-for-profit, we're a startup, and there are so many of you that have worked on this project that I hope we can continue a relationship and a solidarity in some way going forward. So I'll reach out to your educator team and talk to them about, just making that offer sort of more official if there's anyone that wants to join us in some of our capacity, because we have two youth ambassadors that are graduating, and we like to have more members on our team. So, and thank you for this collaboration. We really love this, and I think we just found the perfect place for it to land at your school with this group and those who aren't able to join us on this call now. So thank you.
Thanks, folks.
And I'm going to sign off, but stay on. Great job.
Thank you, guys.
We really thank you guys so much. Really. You guys have a wonderful day.
Cool. Well, I believe we're at the end of our questions. So, Lay, does it look like I'm missing anything?
Not that I know of. No.
I just got one. I just got an email for one. I put it in the thing. It was for the grade 12s essentially. How does this performance, like, how does it feel for this to be your last performance of high school?
Go big or go home.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. I've spoke a lot, so I'm gonna let one of the other grade 12s speak.
There's only like 2 of us here, right?
3 of us, yeah.
Oh, no, now I feel old.
Do you want to go? I can go, or you can go.
You go ahead first, man.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly feels like ending with a bang. Felt pretty powerful. I've never done anything like this in the 4 years of drama that I've taken. Yeah, it was, really fantastic to be able to be a part of something like this, going out. it's a course I'm very passionate about, both for the fact that it's theater and then also for the topic that we're covering. And, you know, writing an essay does not give the same satisfaction as something like this. So this is, I don't know. Yeah, it was really nice to be able to, when I saw my schedule this year, seeing production be my last class was pretty awesome. So yeah, this is emotional. Well, yeah, it's just been great.
We're gonna start crying like real soon.
I know.
Same.
Yeah. It's been crazy and it's been fun and it's been rewarding. And I feel very honored to have been a part of this.
It is a huge honor. Like, with this whole course, again, seeing it as my last course of the year, I'm like, that's ironic. Drama was my first class, grade 9, and now it's gonna be my last. See, it's weird, isn't it? But I'd always been a mediocre student, and I wanted to leave with. Don't laugh at that. But I wanted to leave with some kind of legacy. Have you seen my grades, child? But like, I wanted to leave with some sort of legacy, with something that I really, really believed in. And I think getting a chance to be in this class and talk about literal critical race theory and the BLM movement was something I feared initially, but it turned out to be amazing. And these first few steps have really been amazing. And I'm hoping for like my siblings coming up in school now, they're going to see this and they're going to feel a little better, or it's going to lead to changes that help them feel more comfortable in that school environment. And I'm very glad that everyone here is so open to that and so open to learning. It's been awesome and it's very refreshing to see at my last year. Oh, damn it. No, I'm going to shut up now. Carry on.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. It's kind of like, it's like, I don't even know words. I've only ever taken drama once, but the minute that I saw the first theater production, like when I first like knew about it, like actually knew about it, I was like, this is the class I'm gonna take in my last year. I did drama once in grade 10, and back then, like looking back at who I was then, I was very like, ooh, spotlight, that's where I need to be. And now looking at myself now, I'm like, I don't need to be in the spotlight. The spotlight isn't for me. I'm more of a background person. And I think the first production I saw from the school was, I think it was Peter and the Starcatcher. And then when I like actually learned that it was the theater production class, like when I learned there was an actual class for it, I think it was the Spanalot back in grade 10. That's when I was like, this is the class I'm going to take for my last year. This is the class that I cannot not take. It's my final last hurrah, Like it is one of the I think besides the yearbook, this is one of the things that I am going to remember from high school. I'm starting to cry. But yeah, no, it's like my last hurrah. It's like the last big thing I do at the school. Especially cuz like my grades aren't the best. I've always been like yeah, like I've always been like a C average student, and then high school hit and I started actually being able to do the arts, cuz the arts are a very big part of my life. I've taken vocals since grade 9, and when I first took drama in grade 10, I was like, because I had Miss Morgan, I think that's what like actually like gave me the like kick in the butt to like get on to drama. So yeah, but yeah, no, this is like my one last hurrah, the last thing that I'll remember of my grade 12 year. So yeah.
None of us are really expecting it to turn out this exact way. But I think on behalf of the grade 12s, we thank you, Miss Marr and Miss Morgan, for creating such an amazing experience for us and being so open and kind to everyone here. And we're really going to remember this. Thank you.
Most definitely, yeah. Very big thank you to the both of you guys.
And I think with that, the show finally comes to a close.
Thank you everyone for watching. We hope